Justin Newton, your thoughts on the Cornell Economist?
Yeah, well, I mean, a couple things. First at a high level, it reminds me of an article from 1996 by a futurist named Cliff Skolnick, who was talking about how nobody would ever use the internet. And so, for example, it's like way too slow to, for example, watch video online. I mean, would anyone ever actually watch video online? Probably not. How the shopping experience online was terrible. Nobody would ever buy products online. And you would never get your news online because people deliver a newspaper to you every day, and websites aren't updating that often in 1996. And so there were all these things where they were basically like looking at an infant and expecting it to be an adult, and not able to sort of project forward where things were going. And I think that's some of what Ben was saying here is people are sort of jumping forward. But to address some of the specific items in the article, I think environmental concerns are real and they should be addressed and looked at. I actually think we do a pretty good job of that as a community because of the nature of mining requiring it to go to low cost sources, and burning things is more expensive than not burning things typically. And so, there's cost factors that come in there. I also, by the way, love the Bitcoin energy of the idea that they said you need to do more environmental mining, and the Bitcoin community said volcanoes. That's pretty awesome, and felt very like the Bitcoin answer to environmental mining. That was pretty excellent to see. When they talk about the not being anonymous, I would agree. I think the fact that every transaction is transparently available for everyone to view is a shortcoming long term. It's privacy affecting. It's not something that we want to have to happen, but it's something that the Bitcoin community is actively working on. Right. When you look at Lightning, Lightning developers consider transparency of every transaction a bug, not a feature. And so, yes, today there's still some vulnerabilities where you can do things to transactions or look at them. But where with Bitcoin, if a transaction was missing from the blockchain, you would consider that a bug and immediately need to go fix it to make sure everyone could see that transaction. In Lightning, they're seeing it the opposite way, so that if I want to send money to Ben, no one needs to know that I sent it. You might be able to check balances online, but transaction activity will have gone away. When you add that into advances that are happening with Taproot, that helps obscure multi-sig mixers and other things like that, privacy goes up every single day in the way that it should. And the last of it not being a currency, look, there's challenges with it being a currency. The price fluctuates. Right. So if I am living hand to mouth and I need to buy my family food tomorrow based on what I needed today, Bitcoin might not be how I want to store my value, because if it does go down 20 or 30% overnight, that means my family is going to eat less food tomorrow. But even in that case, I might want my savings account to be in Bitcoin because, I know that the fiat I have is going to be worth I know for sure that the fiat I have is going to be worth some amount less next year. And probably the crypto I have is going to be worth some amount more next year. And so, there's opportunities to utilize traditional currency and cryptocurrency side by side as crypto, grows and expands to become a more mature currency that does settle into those other use cases in the same way that now we're increasing transaction capacity, we're increasing privacy, we'll increase stability as the market grows as well.
Dan Eve, your thoughts on the three flaws of Bitcoin?
So I think there's some really good points raised there. That the fact that not everything is flawless for a start. You can't build a tank that's completely impermeable but not really heavy. There's a downside to that. If you want, you've got to have to make sacrifices in certain areas. But the main thing is that Bitcoin is evolving, and although it's evolving slowly in some people's eyes, it's evolving at a pace that's necessary to maintain its ninja uptime of 99.99999 whatever it is percent now. The fact that the whole environmental thing, I think it needed to happen, and probably a lot of people hate me for saying this, is that it did need to happen because it's going to be a prevalent issue for Bitcoin until all this information's amalgamated, and we've got these these more studies in place that are from more studies that are are believed by the non-believers, right? Because that's the difference at the moment. You've got companies like CoinShares, Novograntz's company, they're producing studies. They want people to see that Bitcoin isn't actually, energy hungry from non-renewables, but then they're not believed by the other side, because the other side produces a report and they look at things in an isolated manner. So the more the infrastructure is being put in place, the more the environment side has been criticized. It kind of reached a point where now we're putting everything in place to say, right, Bitcoin isn't it's power hungry, but it uses renewable energy and it incentivizes it too. The anonymity, I think it was Josh that was saying, if it was completely anonymous, that would be number two. So there's just a flip side of what you desire in a currency, and some people don't want the private currency. They don't want the idea of anonymity, and they don't like any encryption. Everything should be open, and you're not going to satisfy everyone at the end of the day. And the fact that it's pseudo anonymous is kind of nice because it's in the middle, right? It's got more anonymity features that are being developed. And also at the same time, it's not completely, it's not completely anonymous. It is relatively transparent, so that services like Chainalysis can fish around and figure things out. And the other thing about it not being used as a currency, people don't know about Lightning, for example. They've only just learned about Bitcoin, and the problem is that when they don't know about all the other the other extensions to Bitcoin that are reducing the footprint, or at least they're making it more economical, more efficient, transactions more efficient via Lightning. They're not being fed that. I mean, what did this article say? It said like they're being fed Ethereum's new upgrade is 99.995%. Less uses less power, it's more efficient. So they're actually being shilled other coins. They're not hearing about the infrastructure that's being built on Bitcoin and learning about that and being taught about that by the economists. They're being taught by someone who's just bought some Ethereum and is like, oh, I'm in a position to shill, maybe I should. And I think that sadly we're going to see a lot of news stations doing that. I think we're going to see a lot of sites that realize that they can have influence. They look up to Elon Musk and see he's tweeted something and they're like, we can move the markets. They move the markets at Bloomberg just for fun. And so I think we're going to see a bit more of that happening, where there's going to be a lot more manipulation, a lot more underhand dirty tricks from even the other coins trying to out environmentalize Bitcoin. But ultimately, Bitcoin's king and queen all at the same time.
Exit question. If you had a magic wand and you could fix one of the 3 flaws of Bitcoin, which flaw would you fix first? Bitcoin mining harms the environment, Bitcoin is pseudo-anonymous, or Bitcoin is not a good currency because of volatility? Ben Ark, which flaw would you fix?
A pseudo-anonymous. We need truly private, fungible Bitcoin.
Josh Shigala.
Wow, tough question. Maybe, I stick with Ben there on that one.
Justin Newton, mining in the environment, pseudo-anonymity, or volatility? What would you fix?
Yeah, number one is anonymity and privacy for me, with a close second being the environmental impacts.
It's starting to look like a full sweep. Dan Eve, what would you fix?
I actually think that the environmental part's already covered. And the volatility side, I'm not going to lie, I want it to keep going up. So it's going to remain volatile as long as loads of people want it to number to keep going up. So I think, I'm going anonymity.
All right, anonymity, fixing the environment, volatility. We seem to have lost Gabriel Devine. Hopefully he'll rejoin us, but we are going to continue